Matt, and you had a choice this time. So I'm going to multiply the first equation by 2 on both sides, because 2 times negative 3y gives me negative 6y, and that will cancel with the positive 6y. So I get 8x minus 6y equals 16. And I'm just going to add that to this equation right here. Sometimes we write it out again, but I didn't have to because it was right there. So I'm going to add it to the second equation, and I get 10x, my y's cancel, equals 50. Dividing it by 10, I get x equals 5. Now, remember, I multiplied the first equation by 2. If that was not how you started, that's okay. There's other ways to start. You can also check out the solution on the board for canceling out the x's instead of the y's. Now, I have to take that x equals 5 and substitute it back to find what? Y, good. I need to find y. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to choose the second one. So 2 times 5 plus 6y equals 34. And 10 plus 6y equals 34. Subtract the 10. 6y equals 24, and divide to get y equals 4. When you finish and you have your x and your y, put them together in a point. So my point would be the x first, 5, and then the y. All right, now here's the part that we hadn't done before. We're going to do the part where we check on Desmos. Not on Desmos, sorry, on your TI. Now the good news is when we do this quiz next class on systems, you'll be able to check on Desmos, which is easier, because in Desmos you can just type the equations in and you don't have to get the y by itself. So in the TI, when you graph on the TI, the equation has to start with y equals, so you have to get the y by itself. So please, let's do this if you haven't done it yet. Focus up here. To get this y by itself, I start by subtracting the 4x. And I have negative 3y equals 8 minus 4x. And then I have to divide by negative 3. And when you divide this whole thing by negative 3, your calculator is going to want you to have parentheses to keep your numerator together. Okay? So y equals 8 minus 4x all over negative 3. And we're going to put that in the calculator in just a minute. But next we're going to do this one. To get the y by itself, I'm going to subtract the 2x. 6y equals 34 minus 2x. And then divide the 6. All right, and I'm going to put parentheses on this. Now you can write that out again with the y by itself, but it's essentially going to look the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my calculator and I'm going to graph these. So if you haven't yet graphed these, you need to do this. I can press clear, or I can press second quit if I'm on a weird screen. And I need to go to y equals up here and clear out anything that's already in there. In the y1, I'm going to put this one with the parentheses. Parentheses are above the 8 and 9. So parentheses 8 minus 4x. Close parentheses and then divided. And remember, the negative is different from the minus. The negative's down here. And then I'm going to enter the second one. Parentheses 34 minus 2x. Close parentheses, divided by 6. Now, often you can just press graph and see the graph, but my IB students were using this and changing the windows up on it, so we need to just get back to a standard window. So to get to a standard window, just press zoom and choose 6, which is standard. So then we'll see the graph in that 10 by 10 window. Okay, so if this were Desmos, you could just click on that point where they cross and you would know the solution. Some of you can count it out, but if it were not going to be an integer answer, we would need a better way than counting it out. So if you check your paper, it tells you the next step, but I'm going to stop for a minute to see if anybody needs help getting this far. So on the paper it says, press the y equals, we did that. And now we're going to press second and then the trace button. So second, and then trace here. And I'm going to choose 5, which is intersect, and press enter 3 times. And you see now it gives me the intersection, x equals 5, y equals 4. Okay, so for problem 2, show me that you're ready, please. For problem 2, I really thought most people would do substitution because all of this equals y. So I thought you would just substitute it for the y, and that's a good way to start. Raise your hand if you started that way by substituting for y. Okay, good. Now, I saw a couple students started a different way, and it was kind of ingenious. So let's see. For number 2, Sydney and Andrea, how did you start? You multiplied by what? -1. They multiplied by -1 so that the y's would cancel out, right? Even though the x's and y's aren't lined up, you do have y's on the left side. So you could multiply the first or the second equation by -1 to cancel them out. And that will work too. And I'm going to do it the other way because more people did it that way. But we'll end up in the same place where we have to factor something. Okay, so let's substitute. So I'm going to write x plus, and instead of y, I'm going to put all of this in. X squared minus 4x plus 8 equals 6. And I'm going to combine the 1x with the negative 4x to get negative 3x. And because it's quadratic, you want one side to be 0. And so to make one side 0, I'll subtract the 6. X squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. All right, raise your hand if you can factor that for me. Raise your hand, please, if you can factor that. I need a volunteer. I see one hand so far. I think a couple more people can volunteer, though. All right, it's up to you, Landon. All right. What do I put in the parentheses, though? Uh-huh. Good. All right. So these are the numbers that multiply to +2 and add to -3. And then you're going to set each factor equal to 0. That means that we're going to actually, our parabola and line are going to cross in 2 different places. And that makes perfect sense. If you picture a parabola and you picture a line, you can cross in 2 places. All right, so I get x equals 2 and I get x equals 1. How many people chose to substitute back into the first equation? Raise your hand if you substituted back in the first equation. 1 person, 2 people. Raise your hand if you substituted back in the second equation. 1 person, 2 people. Oh, we're even there. All right, it was a tie. Personally, I like the second equation because I don't have to square anything, but these numbers aren't that hard to square, so I can see people choosing the first one as well. So I'm going to use the second equation, x plus y equals 6, and so 2 plus y equals 6, and y equals 4. X plus y equals 6, 1 plus y equals 6, and y equals 5. So over here, 2 comma 4, and 1 comma 5. All right, this one's already solved for y. For this one, I just have to subtract the x. So I have y equals 6 minus x. And now I'm going to put each of these into the calculator. So go back to y equals and clear what's in there. I'm going to press the x button and then the squared button. And then minus 4x and plus 8. And then the next one is going to be 6 minus x. And then when you press those, you can press graph, and we can see if we can see the 2 places where they intersect. I'm going to come around and do a quick check. All right, so there's my parabola. There's my line. It looks like maybe it only crosses in one place, but looking at my answers, I can see they're close together, so that's why it looks like just one place. I'm going to do the same steps. I'm going to press second and then trace and intersect and enter, enter, enter. And it gives me the answer 1, 5. And so I'm going to write that on my paper. Now, if I do the same steps again to find the second solution, it's going to give me the first solution. Why would it give me something different, right? So I'm going to have to do something different this time. So let's look at the paper. It says you still do second, trace, and intersect, but you only press enter 2 times, and then you move close to where the other answer is. So I'm going to follow these directions. I'm going to do second, trace, intersect, which is 5, and I only press enter 2 times. Now it says guess. For the guess, instead of being close to the answer where x is 1, I'm going to use this right arrow so that I'm closer to the answer where x is 2. Okay, see how I'm like closer to 2 right now? Then you press enter one more time, and it gets me that other answer, x equals 2.
Wait, what do you do after you press?
Y equals 4. I'm going to show you. Okay.